Most men lose before they begin, not because they lack opportunity, but because they walk like they've already been defeated. Their shoulders carry fear, their eyes carry doubt, their voice stumbles with apology, their presence whispers, "I hope this works," and life responds with equal uncertainty. But the man who walks like he's already won, that man cannot be denied, because power obeys posture, wealth obeys identity, success obeys certainty. The man who gets the result is not the one who wishes for it. It is the one who moves, speaks, stands, and breathes as if the result is already his. He does not seek approval. He does not wait for permission. He carries belief so deeply that his walk declares the outcome before the evidence appears. This is not a speech. This is not a suggestion. This is a reprogramming, a challenge, a law. You will either walk like you've won, or you will spend your life begging for scraps from men who do. I am going to show you how to move in such a way that the world begins to adjust around your presence. Not because of noise, but because of inner dominion. Because when you carry certainty, the door opens before you knock. When you embody belief, the result begins to move toward you, not by luck, but by law. Listen to me now. You cannot fake this. The world knows when a man doubts himself. Your body reveals it. Your pace reveals it. Your voice exposes it. And you may think no one can see it, but the law can. And the law does not reward need. The law rewards conviction. Your life does not reflect what you hope for. It reflects who you are being. And who you are being is revealed not in your declarations, but in your walk, your tone, your repetition, your discipline, your presence. If your posture carries hesitation, your harvest will carry delay. If your motion carries fear, your future will match it. But the man who walks like he's already won, he walks with law on his side. He carries no anxiety. He carries no panic. He does not ask, will this work? He decides, it is already done. And he moves through the day as proof of that decision. That is the man the world follows. That is the man fortune respects. That is the man who doesn't get ready, because he stays ready. And let me tell you what I've learned. Confidence is not built through applause. It is built through repetition, through holding the image of the winner until your body begins to match it, until your habits reflect it, until your voice carries it, until you look in the mirror and realize you no longer hope, you expect. I spent my life studying the most successful men to ever walk this earth, and without exception, every one of them had a presence about them, a command, a weight. And that weight did not come from their wealth, it came from their walk. Long before the riches arrived, long before the world knew their name, they walked like the victory was already in their possession. Henry Ford walked like every man on earth would one day drive his vehicle. Andrew Carnegie spoke like the steel empire already belonged to him before the first furnace was lit. Lincoln moved like he had already secured the soul of a divided nation, even as the war waged on. They walked like they had won until the world believed them. So I ask you now, how are you walking? Are you walking like a man who owns his aim, or like a man still waiting for proof? Are you speaking like the outcome is secured, or still looking over your shoulder for reassurance? Are you moving like the world must adjust to your belief, or like you're adjusting to its doubts? You do not rise by accident. You rise by alignment. Your identity, your structure, your thought, your pace, they must all declare the same truth, that you have decided, that you are certain, that you are finished with hesitation, that you are done playing the role of the man who tries, and you have finally stepped into the man who moves because he knows. From this point forward, your days of apologetic movement are over. You will not walk small. You will not walk uncertain. You will walk as a man who already has the reward. You will speak with the voice of one who knows it is done, and your body, your routine, your entire presence will become an unbreakable signal that the result is no longer in question. This is how we begin. Say these words aloud. I walk like I've already won. I move with the weight of a man who knows the result. Again, I walk like I've already won. I move with the weight of a man who knows the result. Let these words wash over the memory of every step you ever took in fear. Let them erase the trace of every hesitant movement. Let them mark the beginning of a new man. A man who doesn't chase, he commands. A man who doesn't beg, he becomes. This is extremely powerful. This is the difference. This is the line. And once you cross it, you will never be mistaken for the man who doubts again. You cannot attract what you apologize for. You cannot hold what your posture denies. The man who hunches under the weight of insecurity, who shuffles instead of strides, who mumbles his purpose with a question mark in his tone, that man will never be followed by success. Not because the success is not available, but because the signal he sends says, I am not yet worthy to receive it. You do not become wealthy by seeking permission. You do not lead by lowering your voice. You do not rise by looking unsure. You rise by commanding presence, not just with words, but with the total language of your being, your walk, your breath, your eye contact, your tone, your consistency. Every part of you must agree with the man you say you are. There are many men who say they want riches, who say they want to lead, who say they want to win, but you can tell by the way they move that their soul still doubts it. Their shoulders slump beneath invisible failure. Their eyes glance sideways for approval. Their energy leaks contradiction. They think they are speaking power, but their body is still in debt. Let me say this to you plainly. Every action, every movement, every tone must match the man who has already received what he declared. Not someday, not when the world agrees, not when the money lands, but now. Before the reward, before the audience, before the applause, you must walk as if it is already yours, and you must do it so convincingly that even the world begins to believe it. This is not delusion, it is law. The subconscious does not give birth to reality until the man walks in full agreement with his belief. And the world does not yield to your desire until it reads the signal that you already possess what you claim to seek. Your state creates your signal. The world reacts to who you are, not what you say. If you walk like a beggar, you will live like one. If you speak like the uncertain, you will be treated as such. But if you carry the weight of belief in your posture, in your tone, in your actions, if you move with the calm of certainty, you will become magnetic. That is why Henry Ford succeeded, not because he had approval, not because he had education, not because he had inheritance, but because he moved like the Model T already existed in the hands of the common man. He carried his vision with conviction, and every gesture confirmed that it was no longer a possibility, it was a certainty. He did not shuffle into rooms. He did not ask, "Can this be done?" He walked with the assumption that it already was, and so it became. The world will always mirror the level of belief you carry in your body. This is the law. Your state creates your signal, and your signal writes your future. If you are timid in posture, the world will treat you as fragile. If you doubt in movement, life will wait to deliver. But if you walk like the outcome is finished, if you stand like the reward is sealed, if your body confirms your belief, then even when there is no evidence, the law begins to bend in your direction. Let me now ask you, what does your walk say about you? When you enter a room, does the room quiet or get louder? When you speak your aim, do people lean in, or do they doubt you before the sentence is done? These are not judgments. These are measurements, indicators, thermometers of the signal you are currently sending. You may be reading the right books. You may be saying the right affirmations. You may even have written the perfect plan. But if you walk like the result is uncertain, none of it will move, because the body always reveals what the mind truly believes. So from this day forward, you must train your body to walk ahead of your results. You must train your tone to speak from ownership, not request. You must train your energy to match the man you are becoming, until one day you realize you no longer have to try, because it has become your default signal. Say this now. My belief walks ahead of my results. My posture makes no room for doubt. Again, my belief walks ahead of my results. My posture makes no room for doubt. Say it until your body shifts. Say it until your shoulders square. Say it until your eyes harden with calm. Say it until your breath slows with conviction. Say it until your next step carries more weight than your last sentence. You do not need to raise your voice. You need to raise your signal. You do not need to ask for more. You need to embody more, because the world is not looking for who wants it the most. The world is watching for who walks like they already have it. This is the shift. This is the law. This is where belief becomes evidence, where hope becomes harvest, where your presence becomes prophecy. From this day on, move like the man who has already won. Not someday, not later. Now, you do not wait for clarity. You do not wait until all the signs line up, until every step is visible, until your confidence feels perfect. That is not how success is built. That is not how results arrive. That is not how men rise. You move like the man who knows where he's going, and the way begins to appear, not before you start, but because you start. You are not rewarded for hesitation. You are not honored for standing still. You are not blessed for waiting. You are blessed when you walk. You are blessed when you move. You are blessed when you act in faith, before the proof, before the applause, before the evidence, because that is when the law begins to obey you. Most men say, when I see it, I will believe it. But the man who wins says, because I believe it, I will see it. That is the difference. That is the law. That is what separates those who drift from those who dominate. Certainty is not the result of success. It is the cause. You do not become confident after you win. You win because you were confident first. You do not walk boldly after the path is clear. You walk boldly while the path is still fog, and every step you take clears it just enough for the next one to be revealed. Your problem is not ignorance. It is not lack of information. It is not that you don't know what to do. It is hesitation. It is the habit of pausing when you should be moving. It is the addiction to second guessing. It is the muscle memory of waiting for life to approve your next step. But life does not approve, it responds. It reacts to the signal of certainty. It bends for the man who walks before he knows, who acts before he sees, who declares, I belong here, before the room gives him permission to speak. Think of Edwin C. Barnes. He did not wait for an invitation. He did not craft a resume. He did not look for the safest moment. He walked into Edison's office with no plan but belief. And because he believed, because he stood like he already had the role, because his posture matched the result, the opportunity revealed itself. He did not wait to know how. He moved because he knew who. That's all it takes. The world is not looking for your qualifications. The world is waiting for your movement, for your presence, for your certainty, for your decision to act as if you already carry the thing that everyone else is still trying to find. Let me tell you a truth that most men never accept. Life becomes clear only after you walk. You cannot think your way into clarity. You cannot sit still long enough to be ready. You cannot plan your way into belief. You must walk. And here is the real question. If you knew the future was guaranteed, how would you walk today? Would you move slowly? Would you apologize? Would you wait? No, you would stride. You would command. You would act with peace, with finality, with fire. So do that. Walk as if it is already done, not because it is seen, but because you have chosen to believe before the world confirms it. That is the man who receives. That is the man the law follows. That is the man the door opens for, not because he knocked the loudest, but because he walked as if it had already opened. You don't need to figure out every step. You only need to take the next one in full conviction. You don't need to answer every doubt. You only need to drown it in movement. You don't need to wait for peace. You must walk like the man who already has it, and peace will meet you in motion. Say this now. I don't wait for certainty. I walk as if I own it. My movement creates direction. Again, I don't wait for certainty. I walk as if I own it. My movement creates direction. Let these words end your habit of hesitation. Let them break the loop of delay. Let them replace the question, what if I'm not ready? With the declaration, I have already begun. Because the truth is, your future does not belong to the man who prepares forever. It belongs to the man who moves in faith. Stop rehearsing your doubts. Stop pacing in circles of indecision. Take the step. Make the call. Start the sentence. Build the thing. Begin the journey, not when the path is revealed, but because you've decided the destination belongs to you. You are not here to wait. You are here to walk. And when you walk long enough, far enough, steady enough, the way will rise to meet you. Not because it was always visible, but because the law responds to motion backed by belief. Most men speak because they lack conviction. They think that by explaining themselves, they will be believed. They think that by dressing their weakness in many words, they will hide the truth that they have not yet decided. But the man who knows does not over-explain. He does not dress his belief in decoration. He does not shout to be heard. He does not argue to be understood. He speaks little, but every word lands with weight, because it is backed by certainty. The language of the winner is few words and firm steps. The man who speaks too much is often a man who moves too little. He speaks promises that his body cannot fulfill. He makes declarations that his habits do not support. His words are loud, but his walk is hesitant. And so the world listens, but does not trust him. But the man who carries belief in his bones, that man does not need to convince. His presence is proof. His tone is grounded. His silence is louder than another man's speech. He says, I will, and then he moves. No delay, no discussion, no second invitation. The way you speak must match the way you move. Your words must be in agreement with your walk. If your mouth says confidence, but your tone says hesitation, you will not be trusted. If you say you will rise, but your posture says apology, you will be overlooked. This is why I tell you, speak less, but when you speak, speak with finality. And then let your steps do the rest. Words are weightless when posture contradicts them. But when your body and your tone match your declaration, even a few words become unshakable. Think of Abraham Lincoln. He did not shout to command. He did not decorate his thoughts with endless rhetoric. But when he spoke, the room turned. The nation listened. The world remembered. Why? Because his belief was unshakable, and his words reflected that. They were not loud. They were final. Lincoln didn't need to say much because his presence carried truth. His speech carried law. His decisions were made long before he delivered them. That is why he was trusted. That is why he was followed. He embodied certainty. And so every word felt like it was already done. You must now begin to live the same way. Do not talk for attention. Do not over-explain your goals. Speak only what you intend to prove through action. Do not declare outcomes you are not willing to walk toward daily. Do not say soon when you mean someday. Do not say I'll try when you mean I'm scared. Your words must no longer betray your belief. Speak once because you believe always. Declare your aim. Then repeat it silently in action. Let your schedule speak for you. Let your habits preach your vision. Let your walk silence the questions. Because the man who moves does not need to keep explaining. His steps become his message. His posture becomes his language. His results become his biography. And the world follows, not because he persuaded them, but because he became undeniable. Say this now. My steps prove my beliefs. I speak once because I believe always. Again, my steps prove my beliefs. I speak once because I believe always. Let these words become the gatekeepers of your tongue. Let them govern your speech. Let them remind you that talk is cheap when action is absent, but talk becomes sacred when backed by consistency. From now on, let your words be few, but final. Let them be sharp, not scattered. Let them declare what will be done, not what might be considered. Speak like a man who already holds the outcome, not like a man still negotiating with doubt. And when you speak, move. Move before they ask for proof. Move before they doubt your aim. Move before the crowd forms. Move because it was already done in your mind, and now your steps are simply delivering what was promised. That is the language of the winner. It is not volume, it is velocity. It is not complexity, it is clarity. It is not show, it is substance. So let them talk, let them announce, let them proclaim. You will build, you will return. You will rise, not through speech, but through structure. And when the time comes to speak, you will say what is necessary, nothing more. And the world will feel the difference, because your words will no longer be ideas. They will be instructions. Walk like you've won, and speak only when the step is already in motion. To walk like you've won is not arrogance. It is not delusion. It is not fantasy. It is alignment with spiritual law. It is obedience to the highest principle of creation, the law that states what you believe, you become. What you assume, you express. What you express, you eventually live. The man who waits to become before he moves will never move. The man who hesitates until he sees the evidence will never see it, because life does not follow proof. It follows posture. Life does not obey emotion. It obeys identity. And this is the law of assumption, and it is the law of identity. What you consistently believe and act upon as true becomes true, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with the reality you were always meant to walk in. You do not wait to become the man. You walk as him until the world has no choice but to agree. The subconscious mind does not ask questions. It does not check facts. It does not wait to be convinced. It only receives repetition. It only believes what is expressed often, felt deeply, and declared with certainty. It accepts what is assumed, and then it makes it your reality. Let me say that again. The subconscious cannot distinguish between what is real and what is repeated. It will build based on whatever you tell it to build, whether by word, by action, or by imagination. And once it believes, it will begin to shape your world accordingly. This is why walking like you've won is not a mindset. It is a spiritual command. Because every time you carry the identity of the man who already possesses the gold, you reinforce the truth until your environment must reflect it. Every time you assume you are the leader, the wealth bringer, the builder, the winner, you are instructing the deepest part of you to remove all contradiction, to eliminate all excuses, to take your external conditions and bring them into agreement with your inner assumption. This is how Andrew Carnegie moved. He did not hope for success. He expected it. He assumed it so deeply that even his partners began to walk like kings, because his belief in them shaped their own identity. His assumption was not fantasy, it was command. He looked at men who had no reputation, no experience, and no background, and spoke to them as captains of industry. Why? Because he had already decided they were worthy of the role. And because he walked in that belief without hesitation, they rose to meet the standard he set. You see, assumption does not only shape your life, it shapes the lives of everyone around you. The man who assumes strength is contagious. The man who assumes leadership is magnetic. The man who assumes abundance without apology creates an atmosphere of faith so strong that lack cannot breathe in his presence. And this is the man you must become. You must no longer ask, "When will I arrive?" You must declare, "I have already arrived in spirit, and the world will soon catch up to what I already know." You must no longer say, "I'm trying to become him." You must say, "I am him. I walk as him. I breathe as him. I speak as him. I act as him. and the results are on their way because I am ready to hold them. This is not self-deception. This is self-construction. This is not fantasy. This is foundation. Because no man becomes what he doubts, no man maintains what he apologizes for, and no man attracts what he refuses to embody. Say this now. I walk in the identity I have decided. Assumption is my advantage. Again, I walk in the identity I have decided. Assumption is my advantage. Let these affirmations overwrite the old belief that told you to wait for permission. Let them eliminate the last traces of hesitation. Let them build a rhythm inside you that speaks louder than results. Because the man who walks like he's won will not wait long before life rewards his posture. If you wake each morning and act like the man who already has the results, the world begins to organize itself in your favor. Not instantly, not always visibly, but inevitably. Because identity is not what you are given, it is what you claim. And the law respects what is claimed with conviction. If you speak power long enough, power will enter your tone. If you move with belief long enough, confidence will become your default state. If you assume leadership daily, soon others will look to you. Not because you asked, but because your assumption made it obvious. But if you continue waiting, waiting to be ready, waiting to feel perfect, waiting for someone else to validate your value, you will stand still while others pass you by. And not because you weren't worthy, but because you never assumed you were. The man who changes the world is the man who assumes his place in it long before anyone else offers it to him. He does not wait. He does not beg. He does not whisper. He walks. He walks like the decision is made. He walks like the future is sealed. He walks like the outcome is not in question, and eventually it isn't. That is the power of assumption. That is the law of identity. That is the man you are now becoming. Let us walk forward with it. The man who hesitates kills momentum. He doesn't just stall results, he fractures his power. He leaks doubt into every room he walks into, every sentence he speaks, every action he delays. And the world sees it. Even if his lips say confidence, his timing betrays him. His energy whispers hesitation. His movement exposes uncertainty. And because the world responds not to what you say, but to what you are, he does not hold power. Indecision breaks your signal. It weakens your command. It teaches your subconscious to mistrust your own voice. It sends mixed messages into your environment, and life cannot reward contradiction. The man who cannot choose trains the world to withhold its reward, because no one knows what to follow when the man himself hasn't decided where he stands. Understand this law. Inconsistency in movement creates contradiction in energy, and contradiction delays reward. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be decisive. You do not need every answer. You need a direction, declared and walked in with full presence. Most men stall not because they lack options, but because they fear ownership. They delay because they don't want to be wrong. But let me tell you the truth. Wrong action carried out with full conviction holds more power than the correct idea delayed into nothing. John D. Rockefeller understood this law. He did not hesitate. He made decisions quickly and rarely changed them. And because of this, people followed him. Not because he was always right, but because he was always definite. His decision-making created atmosphere. It gave people clarity. It created confidence, not just in himself, but in those around him. Even when his decision brought resistance, it carried the authority of finality, and that weight bends environments. You must move like that. You must speak like that. You must act like a man who has already decided, and who no longer needs to ask for permission to walk in the direction he has chosen. Because indecision is not neutral. It is not harmless. It is not the absence of choice. It is the presence of fear. It is the posture of a man who does not trust his own vision. It is the mark of one who cannot command belief, neither from himself nor from anyone else. But when a man chooses and moves as if the outcome is already his, the world aligns itself to that level of authority. Your aim may evolve, your path may adjust, but if you move with conviction, you will carry a signal that cannot be ignored. That is what the world respects. Not noise, not delay, but direction. And make no mistake, your direction is your decision. If you are unsure, the world will wait. If you are hesitant, the world will hesitate. If you waver, so will your reward. But if you move clearly, daily, powerfully, results begin to pursue you. Not because you force them, but because certainty is attractive, and definite movement is the language of belief. Let me ask you directly, how many rewards have you delayed by standing still? How many seasons have passed because you waited to feel ready? How many opportunities stood in front of you, quietly waiting for you to choose, only to disappear when your silence confirmed your doubt? That is the cost of indecision, not just delay. Loss, not just waiting. Decay. You were never meant to live paused. You were never meant to rehearse every outcome before moving. You were created to walk by principle, not by sight. To act out of belief, not out of need for confirmation. So decide. Not emotionally, not impulsively, but with law in your voice and certainty in your spine. Say this now. I move as if I have decided. My confidence is born in my speed. Again, I move as if I've decided. My confidence is born in my speed. Let these become your new command. Let them train your subconscious to obey direction, not delay. Let them break the habit of overthinking and replace it with the rhythm of definite action. Because when your pace matches your purpose, the results no longer run from you. They come, and they come quickly. Because the man who moves decisively leaves no room for doubt, and doubt is the only thing that ever blocked your reward in the first place. From this day forward, do not walk halfway. Do not speak with hesitation. Do not plan without action. Do not touch your purpose without following through. Choose, move, finish. That is the new pattern. That is the new man, and let us continue in power. The world hears you long before you speak, before your mouth opens, before your pitch forms words, before your hands move with intention, your presence is already speaking. Faith has a sound, so does fear. And the man who understands this, who lives this, who disciplines his tone and posture until it speaks only belief, becomes unshakable in the eyes of the world. You are not followed because you know more. You are followed because your vibration is consistent. You are not trusted because you say the right thing. You are trusted because the sound of your presence matches the certainty of your soul. You can say, I believe, but if your breath is shallow, your shoulders slumped, your tone shaky, the world will listen to your fear, not your words. Faith is not silence. Faith is sound. And faith does not ask permission. Faith does not stutter. Faith does not apologize. Faith carries a tone of completion. It speaks as if the result is already possessed. It walks as if the victory is behind every next step. It breathes with ease because it already knows the answer is on the way. But fear speaks too. Fear trembles even in quiet voices. Fear asks 5 times for what faith declares once. Fear repeats the question because it does not trust its own power. Fear leaks through small talk, excuses, indecision, over-explaining. Fear doesn't just stay in your head, it moves into your energy, into your timing, into your posture. And the world knows the difference. Even children know it. Even strangers feel it. Because we are not responding to logic, we are responding to spirit. Let me teach you something most men never understand. You are already creating your results with your tone alone. Not your loudness, but your frequency. Not your volume, but your certainty. Because the world bends for the man who walks with peace while everyone else panics. The man who breathes slowly when others rush. The man whose very being says, "It is done," before the evidence shows up. You must walk, speak, and breathe like a man who carries peace. Not anxiety, clarity, not chaos. That is the man the law of success obeys. Not the loudest, not the busiest, not the most emotional, but the most rooted. Look at Thomas Edison. He did not invent the electric light by accident. He did not wait for approval. He did not speak like a man still guessing. He declared the outcome before the result. He spoke about his invention as if it already existed. And because he moved with that conviction, others began to believe him. He shaped his team with tone. He shaped investors with certainty. He shaped the outcome with repetition. He said it would be, and so it became. Not because it was guaranteed, but because he sounded like it was. That is the man you must now become. You must practice carrying faith in the way you speak, not with performance, but with peace. You must speak your aim not like a wish, but like a written decree. When you enter a room, your presence should not shout. It should settle. It should bring order. It should carry silence, not because you are uncertain, but because you are already secure. This is what you must now do. Sound like the outcome already belongs to you. Speak with a calm that comes only from knowing. Move with a pace that belongs only to men who are done rushing. Carry yourself with the tone of one who has walked this path 1,000 times, even if you're seeing it for the first time, because that tone, that vibration, that spiritual rhythm, that is what will build your life. And say this now: faith walks before me. I silence fear by how I move. Again, faith walks before me. I silence fear by how I move. Let these words shape your breath. Let them slow your speech. Let them teach your body what it feels like to carry divine expectation. Because if your presence carries faith, you will no longer need to convince anyone of anything. They will feel it. They will adjust. They will obey your rhythm, not because of force, but because your certainty leaves no room for doubt. And if fear does rise, let your body answer. Do not argue with fear. Do not beg it to leave. Move. Walk with command, speak with finality, stand with alignment, and fear will lose its footing. Not because it is gone, but because you no longer carry the tone it requires to live. This is not a game of motivation. This is a matter of frequency. And the man who disciplines his tone, his walk, his breath to carry only belief, only peace, only order, becomes a living law. No one can shake the man who moves like his answer is already done. No one ignores the man whose voice confirms his vision before it appears. No one questions the one who walks in rhythm with his outcome because he has nothing to prove. He already has it. Let this be the sound you now carry. Let it enter your mornings. Let it lead your actions. Let it remove every ounce of fear, not through emotion, but through spiritual silence. You don't need more words. You need more alignment. Now move as if the answer is here, and it will be. To walk like you've won is not a moment. It is not a mindset you visit. It is not a speech you hear and feel temporarily charged by. It is a ritual, a discipline, a spiritual sequence that must be repeated until it becomes who you are, until the lines between action and identity dissolve, until you no longer have to remind yourself you are the winner, because you simply live like it. Most men try to walk in power once and expect permanence. They declare a new self, they act bold for a day, and then return to the drift. Why? Because they never rehearsed identity until it replaced their old one? Because they believed motivation was enough. But motivation is a flame without fuel. It flashes, then dies. Identity, however, is a fire that feeds itself, once it has been programmed into your structure. This is why you must build ritual, not random effort, not emotional peaks, daily, repeated practice of who you say you are until you forget you were ever anyone else. Identity is not a declaration. It is the residue of repetition. It is not spoken into being once. It is trained, layered, enforced until the former self can no longer find a place to breathe. The man who wins does not think about being the winner. He no longer asks, "Am I him?" He walks, he acts, he moves in line with a belief so deeply anchored, so consistently repeated, that the world no longer has to guess who he is, and neither does he. That is what you are now building, and you must build it deliberately. You must layer your identity into your day like a craftsman builds a monument, not with hurry, but with precision, not with passion, but with pattern. Let me now give you the 3 anchors of your new identity. This is your daily law, your repetition, your training ground. Do not skip, do not deviate, do not forget. 1. Morning. Walk in purpose. Before you speak to the world, before the world touches you, you must touch the man you have decided to become. Before you check for updates, before you engage noise, before you take on responsibility, you must rise into presence. You must breathe into posture. You must speak your aim aloud. Do not whisper it. Declare it. Stand tall, shoulders back, eyes focused. Breath slow. Walk with it. Even if only for a few moments, let your feet remember. Let your nervous system adjust. Let your mind say, he is already here. You must act out your new identity before the day can challenge it. You train your power in peace so it remains in pressure. Second midday, realign posture with affirmation. At the peak of activity, you will forget. The world will pull you. Chaos will distract you. Doubt will whisper. This is why you must return. In the middle of your day, pause. Just for a moment. Stand again. Check your walk. Breathe again. Say the truth. Out loud if you must. Whispered if you cannot. Say, I am no longer becoming. I have already become. I rehearse the identity until I never question it. This is how you override the old self, not by force, but by rhythm. You return to the identity as often as it tries to leave you, and each time you do, it stays longer, until it never leaves at all. Third evening, return to stillness, speak your aim, visualize possession. Before you close your eyes, close your day with command. Do not drift into sleep. Reclaim your image. Rehearse it once more, not as if it's coming, but as if it's already done. Speak your aim with authority. Picture it. See the outcome. Feel it. Not like a dream, but like a memory you are stepping into. Let your subconscious hold that image while your conscious mind rests, because the subconscious will begin building what you consistently submit to it. Identity is built in sleep if it is planted in repetition. This is the law. Morning frames the man. Midday corrects the man. Evening engraves the man. Follow it. Do not rush it. Do not neglect it. You are not waiting to become. You are already becoming. And the faster you move in repetition, the faster you forget that you were ever anything else. Say it again. I am no longer becoming. I have already become. I rehearse the identity until I never question it. These are not declarations. These are installations. You are writing the software of your future. You are erasing the programming of the man who hesitated, the man who begged, the man who doubted. Every time you speak as the new man, move as the new man, and return to his walk. You make it harder for the old man to rise again. Eventually, the winner becomes the only voice you hear, the only image you carry, the only presence that remains. And when that happens, when you are no longer practicing the role but living in it without thought, then you have crossed the line. Then identity has taken over. Then your habits are no longer maintained by willpower, but by nature. The winner no longer tells himself he is winning. He simply walks like it. Let this be your aim. Let this be your rhythm. Let this be the structure you obey until it obeys you in return. Now walk into the next day, not with effort, but with rhythm. Let us move forward. The man who walks like he's won cannot be denied. It is not because he demands. It is not because he argues. It is not because he pleads or proves. It is because he has already decided that he is the man who owns the outcome, and every part of his being confirms that decision. His posture, his tone, his timing, his movement, his habits, they all speak the same word: certainty. You must now understand what few ever truly learn. Life does not respond to your need. It responds to your assumption. It does not give you what you desire. It gives you what you embody. If you walk like the outcome is still uncertain, life will treat it that way. If you speak like the result is still up for debate, life will keep negotiating with you. But when you walk like it is already done, when you carry the vibration of completion, when your being aligns with the man you declared in secret, the result must appear. This is not arrogance. This is not fantasy. This is law. This is the law that governs all success, all identity, all wealth, all power. Embody the end before it appears. Speak from it. Walk from it. Move from it. And the world will be forced to catch up. Let me make this plain. The man who does not embody the outcome he desires will always be ruled by the man who does. And it does not matter who is smarter. It does not matter who is more talented. It only matters who moves like he belongs there. The universe yields to the man whose inner belief, outer posture, and daily repetition match the life he commands. When his thoughts, his breath, his actions, and his schedule all declare the same thing, then the world, seeing no contradiction, no hesitation, no double signal, must respond. And if you are wondering why you have not yet received the thing you want, it is not because it is hidden. It is not because you are unworthy. It is because you have not yet fully embodied the result. You speak it on Mondays. You believe it when you're inspired. But you still walk like the outcome is up for vote. Let me ask you, if you had already won, how would you walk today? Would you look down? Would you overthink? Would you delay? Would you negotiate your value? Would you speak softly where you should declare? Would you entertain distractions that do not serve the man you've already become? Number, you would move with authority. You would act with peace. You would speak with clarity. You would no longer be testing your power. You would be living it. And that is what must now happen. Because if you do not walk like you've already won, life will wait for you to believe it first. It is not your potential that's missing. It is your posture. And posture is not fixed by theory. It is fixed by decision, backed by repetition. You must now wrap every law we have spoken into one command. Walk like the man who owns the result, not when others approve, not when the outcome is visible, but now, before the room claps, before the contract lands, before the body transforms, before the money arrives. Because that walk, that rhythm, that presence is what creates the future, not what reacts to it. The man who walks like he's already arrived owns rooms not because of noise, but because of alignment. He leads nations not because he forces men to follow, but because they feel safer in his rhythm than in their own doubt. He builds empires not because he tries harder, but because every part of him agrees with the vision he set in motion long before the bricks were laid. This man doesn't change when pressure comes, because he was already that man in private. He doesn't flinch when critics speak, because his belief was never for sale. He doesn't apologize when the opportunity arrives, because he knew it would. This is now you. This is now the standard. Say this now. I walk as the man who owns the result. The world moves for the man who does not doubt. Again, I walk as the man who owns the result. The world moves for the man who does not doubt. Let these be your final instructions. Let them walk with you. Let them breathe through you. Let them correct you when your spine softens, when your voice trembles, when your rhythm falters. Let them remind you that you are not building to become. You are walking because you already are. You are no longer the man who wishes. You are no longer the man who waits. You are no longer the man who practices his power only in private. You are the man who owns the result. And the more you walk in that, the faster the world will yield. Not because you pushed it, but because you left it no other choice. Step forward now and let every step carry your name before you speak it.